On May 15th, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And 10 nights before this, I woke up extremely thirsty and tired, but without a care in the world. And that night, when I went to bed, I had diabetes. I, of course, didn't know that I had diabetes, but a couple nights after this, I realized that I had gone to the bathroom at least 3 times in the past hour. And I looked around my room, and there were empty water bottles all over the place. And this is when I realized that I had gotten up in the middle of the night to drink from my sink because I had ran out of water. And all of a sudden, I felt really sick. So I ran upstairs and told my mom what was going on. My mom also has type 1 diabetes, so she knew what was happening immediately. She said I could go to the doctors the next day and nothing was wrong. The next day, I was ecstatic about missing school. But when I got there, they had me urinate in a plastic cup. And I thought, excuse me, I'm only here because I have a cold. A little while later, the doctor came into our room. She placed her hands on my knees and told me that I was strong and beautiful and capable of anything, and that I had type 1 diabetes. At the time, all I knew about diabetes was that you have to test your blood and give yourself shots every day. So I was freaking out, and so many questions were running through my head, but I realized that she was still talking. She said that the hospital was expecting me in about an hour, and I had time to go home and get anything I needed. My mom didn't tell me that I had diabetes that night because she wanted me to have my last night of freedom, free from the stress of T1D. And as I was walking out of the doctor's office, all I was thinking about was how I needed my little sister. So I was quiet the whole drive until we picked her up. She got in the car, and I explained what had happened and that she was the first person that I wanted to tell. She was only 8 years old, so she was a little confused, and she was looking back and forth in between my mom and I. And then she started to giggle, and this made me laugh. And I didn't feel like she was laughing at me and the fact that I had diabetes, but I felt like she was laughing just to laugh. I got home, I packed my things, and I left. I was walking into the hospital when my mom said that my best friend was on the phone. She asked me where I was, why I wasn't at school, if I was okay, and if anything had happened. I told her that I was walking into the hospital. After a couple seconds of silence, she whispers, "Oh shoot, did you break your leg?" I giggled a little, took a deep breath, and told her that I had just been diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. Then there was just silence, and after that, muffled crying. And this made me so nervous. But I realized that I couldn't be afraid of who I was. And when I got back from the hospital, I started to have a complete meltdown. And I decided that I wasn't going to have anything to do with diabetes. I wasn't going to dose, and I wasn't going to care. But I quickly realized that this was not the best solution, and it was hurting me way more than it was helping. My mom came over and told me that if she could, she would take diabetes from me. And she sat me down and told me that everyone has something, and this is my something. And it's true, everyone has something. But on Monday, I had my parents drive me to school because I didn't want to see my friends on the bus, and I didn't want any attention drawn to me. When I got to school, I buried my face in my coat and ran up the stairs to my locker. I noticed that there were an odd number of people surrounding the area, but I figured it was someone's birthday. As I got closer, I noticed that all of those people were surrounding my locker, and I went completely red. I found out that my friends had gone to school early to decorate my locker, and they had went out and bought all sorts of gifts, too. And people I didn't even know had written me letters explaining how I was capable of anything. And this is again when I figured out that I couldn't be afraid of who I was, and I had to embrace it. But it's been hard, and I've tried really hard to stay open and positive about diabetes, but people just don't understand the difference between type 1 and type 2 diabetes, which are totally different things. And I was made fun of a lot because of it. And I've had to explain to tons of people that I'm the same person and I can do the exact same things that they can, and they just don't understand. But my sister said that there are always going to be people like that in the world, and you either have to push past them or push them down. And if I hadn't have gotten diabetes, I wouldn't have been able to meet my best friend who also has T1D. And don't get me wrong, diabetes is awful, but I've had the opportunity to do amazing things because of it. And for example, over this past summer, I was chosen, along with 2 other kids, to represent the state of Utah in Washington, D.C. I got to speak with Senator Hatch and asked him to renew the Special Diabetes Program, which is a fund of $150 million given by the government per year for diabetes research. I've told my story to Rotary clubs, local news stations, and other students. And about a year ago, my friends and I convinced the Park City School District to hire more school nurses. And I've started a rental photo booth company with my younger siblings, and we donate 15% of our profit to JDRF. I have a goal to raise $1 million before my little brother graduates from high school. I'm working on it with the CEO of JDRF and my family. Currently, there's no cure for T1D, but type 1 has taught me to be more empathetic of those who are different. It's taught me to stand up for myself, to run a business, to speak in public, and to stand up for others. But more importantly, it's taught me to try harder to find a cure. Inhale the future and exhale the past. I'm capable of amazing things, and so are you. Thank you.